What's going on, everybody? I am here with, actually, I pulled this off of his website. It says the world's highest paid digital marketing consultant, James Smiley. And actually, I, came in contact with him at J.R. Revis's event. But, if you guys are on here live, hashtag live, if you're on here on the replay, we need engagement on here. And you know how we do it here, and six-figure secret scaling hacks. I'm always talking about, even on my personal page, always talking about always be moving. Never be stagnant, because the object at rest stays at rest. Unless it's equal. Unless it's something from the outside. Reacts to it. So you got to put action. So there's no. Just want to make sure we're live in here. We got two people on. What's going on? Hashtag live. Let me know you're here. Let me know. Give me some engagement. Give me something, man. I got James Smiley in the house. This is James Smiley. He's actually been on stage with Russell Brunson. There's a lot of stuff. Actually, I had his website pulled up here, but you can go to his website. He'll give you all that later. And I don't know if he has any free products that he wants to give out. Obviously he's going to drop some knowledge. That's always free knowledge. Every time he gets on here, I was watching, I think it was Gooston interviewed him. And or somebody did. I think it might have been Goosen, but he's always dropping knowledge. And like I said, this guy, it wasn't just at JR's event. He spoke at JR's event. He spoke on stage with Russell Brunson. So if I were you, I'll get your notepads out. I'll get your pens out. I'll get something to record. That obviously is already recorded on my page, but I do something, man. But I just want to thank him for coming in. This guy, he's busy. So I actually approached him, asked him if I could do an interview, and he said, hey, just go to my page. And I went to his page, and it's like, that's kind of interesting that he has a setup where, everybody, pretty much can just go on there and ask him for an interview. Somebody reached out to me. They said, how'd you get an interview with James Smiley? I said, I just reached out to him and asked him. So, this guy's open. He's humble regardless of, how much he makes, 25 million, 30 million. I don't know how much it is now. A lot of money, but he's still accessible and he's down to earth. So I just wanted you guys to, wanted to come on here and drop some value for you. So I'm just gonna let him introduce himself and tell him about a story, because everybody doesn't know who you are. So just get on there and let us know where you came from, your background, and all that stuff. Thanks, James.
Well, what's going on, my man? How are you?
Doing good.
Thanks for having me on. What is going on to all the digital marketers and agency owners out there? Hopefully you guys are having a great day. Excited to be on here. Always love just helping, man, giving back, dropping knowledge, whatever you guys want to know. Make sure you drop your questions. There will be no holding back. So whatever your questions are, wherever you're stuck in your business, ask some good questions. If you ask good questions, you get good answers. You ask a dumb question, you get dumb answers. So remember that. That's a Tony Robbins quote, by the way. So anyway, excited to be hanging out with you, man. Appreciate you going on the schedule, and let's rock it, bro.
Oh, you ready? Yeah, I thought you were going to go a little bit deeper, like as far as your background and all that stuff.
Yeah, man, I can't. So 20 years, grew up in Seattle, 12 years in LA, and 6 years here in Dallas. I grew up in the inner city in Seattle in a place called Rainier Valley, Beacon Hill. It's a minority poor neighborhood, half Korean, half Italian. Grew up with a Mexican stepmom and in a black neighborhood. So I'm pretty much down with everybody. So
that's good. That's good.
So yeah, man, grew up really, really, really tough. But I just believed that my dad used to tell me, he's like, man, you're not living in like Czechoslovakia or Bangladesh where you make like $200 a year. He's like, man, you can go like ride the bus and go to a rich neighborhood and figure out something, And so, man, I just worked really hard. I always had 2 or 3 jobs. Made my first 6 figures when I was 20. Working for Nextel. I was a B2B sales rep. First time I ever talked to a business. Didn't know nothing about it. Didn't really know nothing about sales either. But did that. That was really cool. I was selling Blackberries back in the day. That lets you know kind of my background. I was selling Blackberries, and I was using digital marketing to sell to be a B2B sales rep. So most people wouldn't. Well, number one, back in the year 2000, when that happened, it wasn't even called digital marketing. Like this, the whole digital marketing wave hadn't even hit. I was just using email to email my clients versus like everyone else in the office was going out and knocking on doors, pounding the pavement. And I remember like this is the first laptop I ever got was working there. I mean, I was really poor, so I didn't have no laptop or nothing like that. And I got a laptop, and then somebody gave me this account list of 8,000 accounts that were, they said, hey, these are your accounts. You know, these are your 8,000 customers. And then this guy was showing me how email worked. I never really used email. And so he was showing me how like in email, you can send, instead of sending one email, you could send like 1,000 using a distribution list. Now, remember, man, this is in 2000. So like this type of stuff, like, you know, nobody was doing it. And so I was like, man, I have 8,000 customers. I could send one email to 8,000 people. And this is back when it was like a 98% open rate, you know? And so I had no idea what I was doing, but I just put all those customers in there, sent that email. And man, in about 20 minutes, I made my very first sale. My first 20 minutes on my job, my phone rang. And it was a company phone. And so I'm like, who's calling me on the company phone? So I answered it. And this person's like, hey, man, are you James Smiley? And, you know, like when you grow up in the hood, like somebody says, hey, man, are you James Smiley? Like, you don't just say, yeah. I'm like, who is this? You know, and they're like, well, wait, like, did you send me an email? And I'm like, yeah, that was me. And so anyway, I sold 4 phones on that first call, and my quota was 22 or something like that for the month. So my first like 20 minutes on the job, I had cleared like a huge part of my quota, and man, I crushed it. I was about 200 to 300% every single month to my quota. And like I became like this phenom young sales rep, and people were like, man, how is he doing it? I'm like, I didn't tell nobody, because honestly, I was like, man, I think I'm about to get fired. Like they're going to say I'm cheating. You know what I mean? Like I had no idea like what I was doing. You know, I didn't know what digital marketing was. And so, but yeah, I always just try to use my mind, and I try to create leverage. You know, I'm really big into leverage, what I call high leverage moves. And like, you know, if I'm going to exert whatever amount of energy, how do I maximize that? And, you know, and so anyway, yeah, man, that's where it all started. And then I got recruited to work at a Silicon Valley startup. From Nextel. And I was the 6th employee of the company called Telenav. We were the first Google Maps. We were Google Maps like 8 years before Google. Google basically hacked our stuff. We owned 80% of the market share for cell phone navigation, cell phone mapping. And so I ran sales and marketing from LA to Florida. And we blew it up. And we went to like 5 million subscribers. We went to $350 million a year in revenue, and we crushed it. We IPO'd in my 20s, and it was kind of history from there. You know, I just I've helped a lot of, you know, almost 100 startup companies start their companies, and then you know, I think I'm like 540 or something like that solopreneurs that I've had paid coaching, that I've coached. And my biggest thing, man, is just helping people grow their revenue and scale. So I'm really big into business models and like, you know, what's the most efficient way to create leverage around what you have, and you know, how do you scale your company? So anyway, whether it's a 1 or 2 man operation or woman operation, or a, you know, $2 billion company. You know, I had a digital marketing agency for 8 years. We were 7 figures, 6 out of those 8 years. I had a lot of, you know, I had companies like CompuCom that were $2 billion companies, all the way to, you know, I did some consulting at AT&T, Facebook, and Amazon, so 3 Fortune 10s. Done a little bit of kind of consulting for ClickFunnels. So anyway, just been out there, man, just working hard. 38, live here in Dallas, and enjoying life, man. Trying to do it right. So that's me.
That's good. I know you mentioned that you actually, I guess you said you were actually doing emails before emails were big. I mean, how important is that? Because I know Gary Vee actually talks about in the coming years, or coming months, years, whatever it is. But Gary Vee always talks about doing things before it actually starts trending and before everybody else catches on. And he was talking about podcasts and stuff, as far as developing everything in the podcast. And I mean, we can either touch on that or go on another subject. But I mean, how important is it, and especially in the social media marketing world, because everybody's going out and they're doing particular things to try to get clients, and they're doing particular things to try to keep clients. I mean, as far as, I guess, well, what do you see in the social media marketing world that's coming that most people haven't seen yet, or, as far as client acquisition and as far as, keeping your clients and everything, because that's a part of scaling too as well is, so.
Yeah. I think what I would say, so I've had some of the biggest companies in the world ask me to come help them understand trends and where things are going. I did some stuff for Facebook Messenger before the bots and all that stuff were coming out, and kind of help them understand like that could be big and what could happen there and how that could be used. And so, like I ran AT&T's Innovation Center, at least for the mobile technology, and did a lot of things with social media there and stuff like that. But so, man, on that question, what I would say is, in terms of email, I think, I put out a video like a year ago that said Facebook Messenger is going to come after email, particularly like Gmail users. And they're going to give Gmail like a run for their money. And man, I got so many like people just like trying to hate on that one. But now you look at what's happening, and it's funny how many people use Messenger over email. And so number one, when you throw out big ideas, people with small minds don't understand it, and that's fine. And also when you put out innovative stuff, people who aren't future forward thinking, they don't have any idea what you're talking about, and so but what I would say is I don't think email by any means is going to go away, but I think that there's going to be a lot of diversification. So what technology does at its highest level, technology is a diversifier. And it decentralizes. And so you might say, well, what does that mean? Well, like you used to have, 4 or 5 TV channels control media, the control of information, the flow of information. Now there's thousands of television stations, right? Now there's social media. So even like TV used to have a grip on communication. Well, now it's radio, podcast, Facebook Live, right? Social media. So there's this diversification, all the way down to like the biggest brands, the biggest associations, the biggest companies. They have a hard time keeping a grip on what they used to own, right? Take, for instance, Toys R Us. They owned the toy market. Well, if you look at the stats, the toys are selling more than ever before in the history of the world. Like more people have bought toys for their kids, or more toys than ever before. So how does Toys R Us completely go bankrupt? And like they couldn't even sell off like their name. Like you would think the brand, right? Like somebody would have just said, "Hey, we'll maintain the brand." No, like it was totally gone. People are like, "Dude, we don't even need the brand." And so that's like, but like where are people buying toys? People are buying toys on Amazon, and who are they buying toys from? Like the reason Amazon is so big is not because like it's Amazon the corporation. It's Amazon enabling this entrepreneur movement of it's all these FBA sellers and all these people, who are in there, like these individuals who are keeping that thing alive. And so, so it's funny how like, it's not that toys, the industry wasn't booming. It was that Toys R Us wanted to maintain their grip on the market. And technology decentralizes, technology diversifies. And so any Joe Schmo can go out there and get toys and sell them now. You know what I mean? At a markup. And like, so anyway, so coming back to your question, I think email, Gmail, all these people are in the same, they're experiencing the same kind of diversification effect where it used to be, even just 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago, if I wanted to build a customer list, I had to have an email list. Well, now I can have a Facebook Messenger list, a bot list, a Facebook group is a list, my Facebook personal page is a list, my like page is a list, my Instagram is a list. You know what I mean? Like all these are lists that I can message to. Now, like you may say, well, or somebody will say, well, you own your email list. Okay, a couple things you need to think about, and I think that's why email is a good long-term play, and it's a good consistent play because you can like download the emails and keep them. But I would say the chances of you like completely losing like your Facebook group, not that good, not that high likelihood. But if you did lose it, it's not like you can't build it back again quicker. See, you can build these other lists fast, much faster than you can an email list. The other thing is the growth is faster. Also, the engagement is like 10 times more. So like you can have a group of 100, 200 people, but still get like in a few days, you know, Facebook will circulate this around. You can reach 30%, 40% of the people in your group will see this feed versus like if you sent this out over email, you're seriously lucky if like 5% of people click on it. Click through all the way through to watch it. You're like really lucky 5%. You know what I mean? So like it really depends on how you want to look at it. I think now the power in entrepreneurship are all these people. You see all these people, whether it's Gary Vaynerchuk, Russell, Frank Kern, Tony Robbins, anybody, and all these big companies are doing the same. We're like, you've got to have a diversified list strategy. You can't just say email is my game. Like even Frank Kern last year in 2018, he had a lot of videos where he was just clowning on email. He was like, he even said like email's dead. Our open rates are worse than ever before in the history. Now it's about social media, video, those kind of things. And I think he was like, I think he's a little bit just like, you know, like disappointed that you know he has a huge list and email is working as well. I don't think he literally meant like email is totally dead, zero. You know, no one's getting like zero response, but it's not the way it used to be. So like right now, Facebook Messenger and bots is big, but a lot of people are starting to see even a decrease there, where like their open rates are less, their click throughs are less. So like it really depends. You know, on where the trend is. But I will tell you this, it pays a lot of money to ride the trends. And the entrepreneurs, it is our game to ride the trends. So like big companies, big enterprises, I can tell you for sure, having worked at a very, very, very high level, literally with board members and things like that, they do not want to ride trends. Like a trend comes in social media, it's too small for them. $2 billion, $8 billion, too small. They don't want to play. Like 50 million, they definitely don't want to play. 100 million, they don't want to play. Too small, right? But so who picks up that 50 million? It's all of us entrepreneurs taking a slice of that pie. And so and that's how we stay alive. That's our lifeblood. Is riding trends. I heard somebody clowning on Ty recently. They're like, "Oh, try like he just rides the trends."
What's wrong with that?
I'm like, dude, that's just like saying, oh man, he just makes millions and millions of dollars, just like easy. That's all he does. You know what I mean? I'm like, come on, bro. Like riding the trends is where the money is. That's where the serious money is. Like you look at like even with you name any entrepreneur, like Russell started the really like the online funnel movement. Not that it wasn't out before, but it really started to peak, get hot, and so he got on that and is really like been the catalyst for doing that. But I can tell you that movement won't be around as hot in 2 years from now. Like it won't be that hard for Google, and I've said this many times. I'm pretty sure I'm the first person to start putting this out, but now there's like 4 or 5 people talking about it. But like Google could easily come out with Google Forms or Google Funnels, and in their small business suite, and, they already have email stuff. Like they could easily clone ClickFunnels if they wanted to. Facebook has already started. Now they have Facebook lead forms. Amazon could easily do it. So that every time you list a product, you can now create a funnel on the front of it. So like all these companies, like once the industry gets big, like in the billions, then all the little companies are going to get bought out or they're going to go under. And so I think that's why you see ClickFunnels, like Russell's talked about on his podcast, like they're going to take the company to the next step, which probably would mean some big company buying it. And I don't think Russell probably will go anywhere. I think Russell will still be a part of the community. I mean, I think it would have to be like, but that's anyway. So anyway, this is all really, really, I think, interesting conversation. But I think where it comes back to for entrepreneurs, particularly, is having an understanding that if you see a trend, riding that trend early and becoming an expert at it can pay you a lot of money.
Well, that's the thing. Is like, well, I know you kind of went around, I guess, on a spin, but I mean, how do you find trends? That's the thing. Is like, because I mean, it's hard to see something before it gets big. And I know Gary Vee talks about just going after stuff, but then it's like, because I know in the back of, my mind, any entrepreneur's mind, or just anybody's mind, period, maybe it's not an entrepreneur's mindset. But the thing is, it's like, well, what if this isn't the trend? But I mean, obviously, you got to take risks. That's what entrepreneurs do. So, and it's like, I spent all this time, chasing what I thought was a trend, but really it's not a trend. So, I mean, do you have any type of, I guess, indications as far as, because I mean, like, think about social media marketing and agency owners and stuff. That just kind of, blew up within the past few years. But you said you've been doing it for 8 years, and I've known a couple of other people that have been doing 7, 9, but we're just now hearing about it. So, I mean, is it that we're on the back end of this, that, pretty much, or is it, on the come up? The trend, is it just now trending, or has it already been trending? And I mean, how would you have seen it, or how did you see that 7 or 8 years ago? How did you know to go after? So, go into this.
That's a good question. So there's actually a real scientific answer to that. I won't go into the background of just for time, but like high-end business schools like Wharton, and also just a lot of big consulting firms like McKinsey, they have actual formulas of how to determine that. And so I've learned a lot of that over the years. My CEO at Telenav, he was from McKinsey. And so I learned a lot of the stuff literally when I learned this stuff. Like I didn't even go to I flunked out of 4 colleges, but learned, like some of the smartest stuff in business, executive, stuff like way before anyway. So what I would say is a couple key indicators that a trend is kind of peaking. One, when you see everyone using the same language, when phrases are overdone, it's being flooded, right? When people don't know what to call it, then it's on the come up, right? But when people have crystallized the nomenclature and it's like, so this is a digital marketing agency, and you hear the word chiropractor all the time, dude, steer away from that. Like, that's a way to put a noose around your neck and choke yourself out. You know, now I'm not saying you can't go in there and be successful. Okay. But if you do, if you try it, you have to figure out a way to make a red ocean blue. So, and the way you do that is you create a new opportunity within that market, and you have to outposition yourself. And so one of your questions is, how do you find a trend? Okay, well, it's actually not that hard. It's not like you can literally just Google like 2019 social media trends, 2019 technology trends. If you listen to a lot of podcasts, you want to listen to like people who are forward thinkers, like Russell, listen to some podcasts. They're going to start telling you like what they're working on. So there's indications. Okay. So another really, really, really big thing that I would say is when people are creating like clubs, almost like a club where join this club and you're going to be a millionaire. I can tell you for sure, you're not. You're definitely not. It may seem cool to be in the club. It may even be cool to be in the club. And there's probably a good amount of people in that club who are successful. But you look at like all the forward thinkers, you don't see like Frank Kern joining the club. You don't see Billie Jean joining the club. You don't see Tony Robbins joining the club. Like, there's a saying that like eagles fly alone. And so one of the things that I've always tried to do was support the clubs and the associations, support, especially when my friends or people that I support, people I think that are doing awesome things out there like Russell and people, support all that stuff. It doesn't mean that there's not value in that, but I have to know that like when you see like all the people moving this way, the trendsetters are moving the other way all the time. Doesn't matter if it's real estate, stocks, economy, technology, doesn't matter, right? So that's a good indication like that. Like if you literally see like everyone moving this way, I would start to pick your head up and try not to be like one of the people in the gang, and try to think outside the box. Like typically, like when I see somebody, one of the reasons I like going to conferences is I like to see like what the guy who's running the conference, I like to see the strategy of what he's doing. So a lot of times, like I'll stand in the very back of the conference room. I'm not like sitting in a chair. I'm standing in the back observing like what's going on. And I remember seeing people sell like make tremendous sales. And instead of being one of the people who is, suckered into buying, I'm watching what's going on. And I'm catching up on the model that person's using, and then I'm going out and repeating that in my business. So yeah. So anyway, that's kind of a roundabout way of answering that question.
Yeah, I know you. You answered it. I mean, you gave us some insight. As far as I guess just business terminology. Because I mean, like you said, obviously my background is science, and I guess a lot of other people on here, I don't know whether probably some of them have degrees, some of them don't have degrees in my group. So I mean, it's kind of interesting to see, as far as I guess on the marketing side, because I know my wife actually, she majored in all this business stuff, but obviously I was in the science realm. So obviously, some of this terminology and stuff, I don't know market analysis and all that stuff. As far as the equations and all that stuff. Obviously, yeah, you got scientific equation, you got business equations. So obviously, the thing is, it just there's laws everywhere. There's universal laws that you pretty much can be applied, to any area of your life. So I mean, it just goes to show you that obviously, there's business laws as well. But let me actually, I guess some of the people have been making comments. If you guys got any questions for James, just go ahead and drop them down in the comments. I don't know if you can see them through Be Live, but I think he might have my group open. I'm not sure you have my group open, or can you see the comments? But I know Yeah, Chris, what's going on, Chris? And my wife is on here. I know my wife earlier said, yeah, her email rate is pitiful, is down. I don't know if you have any tips of, given, as far as email rates, again, open rates were down. And it
Yeah.
looks like Dean joined us, but yeah, go ahead and answer that question or
I mean, if
statement.
I were to give some tips on email, one big thing that I think is really, really new that some people are doing is, the from name that you use. So like if I put James Smiley, I don't know why this is, but if you put James Smiley, comma, CEO or a title, you'll see a noticeable increase in opens. Um, so that is really, really, really big. That we just noticed that maybe like 10 months ago. So we've been doing that a lot. Another thing we've been doing is just trying to get really creative on the from name and the headline. So most of it is the headline is the reason why people are not opening. But you can try this. You can use, instead of putting like James Smiley as the from name, especially early on when somebody opts in with me, they'll get it'll say notifications instead of James Smiley. People click on that a lot if it says notifications. In fact, I get a lot of people who email me and say, "Hey man, just wanted to let you know, I'm just trying to help you out, but your email said notifications." And I'm like, no kidding. So obviously they opened it. And so you need to be careful though, because when they open it, you don't want to have something totally tricky in there that's going to piss them off, right? Like, oh, he was just trying to get me an open email. So you want to make sure you add value and be really creative with how you catch them on the inside of the email. Versus like they click on a notification, that's like you selling something to them, and then they're like, oh man, this guy sucks. So you want to make sure that you think through that psychology. The other thing that I would do is this is something I teach our we have a couple coaching programs. One of them is 15 grand, and something that I would teach in there is so I'll just drop it here for your people is like I would go to Agora Financial or Agora 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 Financial, and I would sign up for all their newsletters. They have the world's biggest email newsletter. I think they have 3 or 4 of them. And I don't know, they talk about a lot of, sometimes it's weird, controversial, whatever, but you want to look at their headlines. And so whenever I go, like the worst thing you can do when you're sending an email is you put a lot of effort into the copy, but then the headline gets like gets like no love, right? And so people are just like, oh, well, let me just write something just true, direct, and honest. That, trust me, you're like 90% of people will never see that. You don't want to write something true, direct, and honest. I'm not saying be dishonest. I'm saying like you need to be creative. You need to trigger curiosity. And believe it or not, you need to not tell them what's in the email in the headline. This is really big. Okay. I've seen it at big companies. Russell talks about it. Like, if you already tell me what's in the email, then guess what? I don't have any time to read that. Right. Or I'll think, oh, I'll just check that some other time. Right. Like, I'll get an email that says your receipt for something. I'm like, okay, there's my receipt. Right. Like, I already know what's in it. I don't have enough time to look at it. I know I've got my receipt email. So you want to trigger like a curiosity, like it's like curiosity kills the cat. That's what you want to do. And if you look at these ones from Agora, man, they are epic at head every day they're dropping headlines that just make you go, wow, what is that? And so I use a lot of their trigger words. And Russell does this too. Actually, I got that idea from Russell. I think in one of his training courses, he talks about that quite a bit. And so anyway, that's kind of a really cool hack if you want to increase your open rates, is you got to have really, really, really good headlines. But then the other thing is just on the technical side, like if you really want to increase your open rates, you need to go to a dedicated IP. And so if you look on the pricing plans, you can go to a dedicated IP. Chances are it's going to cost you about twice as much, maybe 3 times as much. They're probably around $100 a month. But that puts you on your own IP address, and versus, you're most likely like 95% of people who have an email system are on a shared IP. And so you're running off the reputation of that group. And there could be 1 or 2 people in there who's really don't have a clean list, and that's hurting everyone in the group. And you have no idea. You can call them, you can ask the company. They're not going to tell you who's in your group, what your reputation is, whatever. So the best thing you can do is get on your own IP.
Wow, that's interesting. I never heard that before. But since we're touching on emails, I know I'm just getting ready to get into as far as acquiring clients, because obviously this is a group of agency owners, and I know some of the people in here. And Brian, I saw your question. We'll touch on that a bit later since we're on the email subject. But as far as I guess sending out emails for, as far as doing cold emails, and you're talking about headlines and all that stuff, what is the best way, or what's one headline that maybe you have used or that you could recommend that a business owner would actually, get a business owner to open an email? I mean, as far as, just sending out cold emails, what's a, typical headline or a good headline that you can write as far as to get a business?
The best one to start out on a cold email is something like, can you contact these leads?
That's good. That's good. Write that down.
And then they click on the email, and it's like real short, 1 or 2 sentences, and it says, "Hey, I just got 16 leads or 4 leads that are perfect in your niche. Do you have capacity to take these leads?" And they're going to be like, what? Who? You want to make it. You don't want to make your email on cold. On cold emails, you don't want to make your email seem like an autoresponder. You want to make it seem like a personal email. And so the best way to do that, and this is something we teach once again in our coaching course, and I'll just drop it here for all you guys because y'all are awesome. Because y'all.
That's right. That's right. That's how we do it. Yes, sir.
What I would do. What I'm about to tell you right now can make somebody on this if you put this to practice, I promise you can build a 6-figure business. Okay. I have so many people who can do a couple $100,000 just on what I'm about to tell you right now. You want to use a software like D7 Lead Finder or.
Man. I didn't mean to cut you off, but that's kind of interesting that, you said that. Somebody just told me about that last night. So
yeah.
That's interesting you said it. Yeah.
Yeah, D7 Lead Finder. It's really cheap. There's another really good one out called Lead Carrot that a guy named Ross has, and I would just use those. You're gonna scrape tons of emails for pennies per email, literally pennies per email. You're gonna get all kinds of emails in any industry you want, any zip code, whatever, and then you want to use Woodpecker. Woodpecker is a system you want to use to send, and with Woodpecker, you basically what Woodpecker does is it integrates with a Gmail, and it sends through Gmail.
Wow!
And so that way you don't need an autoresponder, and that way your deliverability is 100%, which is really sick. And then the downside to it is. You want to, and I haven't set it up in a while, but you want to limit it, I believe, to like 200 emails a day. So you don't want to be sending like 5,000 emails across your Gmail. You're gonna get shut off. You don't even want to send like 300, 400, 500. You want to send like 100 or 200 a day. So you're using one system to scrape those emails. The other system's going to send, and it can send, like Woodpecker, you can send sequences. So you can queue up like 3 or 4 emails that are going to send. And then what a lot of guys do, a lot of people in my coaching program do, is they'll set up like 5 or 10 Gmail accounts. So that way they can do 1,000 emails a day. So people who are in my coaching program, we have a whole training on like how this works. We have the swipes, all this stuff. Plus we have the VAs that like can run this whole thing for you. So like if you want a VA to run the whole thing, you can have a VA run the whole thing for you. But yeah, I mean that this time, and that's how you can get leads. Like your main objective is to send people off the email to book a meeting with you. And so you shouldn't have any problem at all. In fact, if you're using that system, you will not have a problem getting people on the phone.
Wow.
Then you got to close them and, you know, get a lot, kind of take, then like now you're on like the next step, which is how do you close them? How do you get the trials? How do you get trials closed? All that. But getting them to engage with you should not be a problem. You know?
Yeah, that's interesting you said that, because I mean I know of some people in here. I don't know if everybody joined in or not, but that was my issue as far as you know, just having, because I'm not big in sales, and I know a little bit about Facebook ads, but as far as running Facebook ads, like, you know, for major companies and handling a ton of ad spend, actually I developed a team for that. There's actually a program, Agency in the Box or whatever, but it's by Rob Quinn, and he actually has closers that'll help you, and he has, you know, a fulfillment agency and everything like that on the back end. So I mean, that's interesting that you said that, but the problem is I'm still having issues, you know, getting people on the phone to book a call and book a meeting. But I mean, you know, what you saying, I mean, come on, guys, I mean, you got to give something up, you know, you got to put something down. Let Facebook push this out, you know, give some engagement, put hashtag live, put, you know, drop, last time I did drop bombs, I think when it was Evan on here, just put a bomb in the comment box, because that's a lot of information. That's a lot of knowledge that he just gave you. I mean, that's what, 10, 11, I mean, you can pick up 5, 6, 7, maybe more than that clients. So I mean, just let us, you know, knowing that my wife, obviously we're actually looking for, she is and I am looking for a VA, and yeah, so I mean that's awesome too, that, you know, you got a program set up as far as VA. But I mean, you know, if you're interested in his program, which you should be, you know, just you know, James's program, you know, if you're interested in his program, if you're interested in what he's saying, I mean, this is free information that he's giving us. How much more do you think he's going to give you if you pay him? I mean, he's giving us this for free. I mean, he's pretty much put money in your hands. I mean, they say money doesn't grow on trees, but I mean, still, when people talk, that's like money dropping. Actually, it's even easier to make money now, or easier to get ideas. You just got to implement the idea. So I mean, it's hard to grow a tree. They say money doesn't grow on a tree. It's hard for fruit to grow on a tree, but he just gave you something just by speaking. All you got to do is write it down and implement it. So I mean, that's good knowledge, man. We appreciate it, James. Thanks for coming on here, you know, giving us all of these, you know, there's just a ton of information. I mean, you know, you can go through courses and stuff. Gurus, really, I don't know how many classes that I bought, how many training courses that I have, you know, actually purchased. And I've never heard anybody say that. I mean, I've heard of Woodpecker before, but somebody just told me last night about D7, and that was in an intimate, pretty much, you know, conversation or whatever with one of my friends that I actually met, you know, online. And this guy's kind of low key, and he knows a lot of stuff. But anyway, he told me about that last night, and I have heard of lead carrot, but it's in separate conversation. Nobody mentions those together. And James just pretty much put everything and put it together for you, like how you use it together. Because I've heard people say, use lead carrot. Okay, so if I use lead carrot, then how's that going to help me? What am I going to do with it? Then I heard somebody say, you know, use woodpecker. Okay, so if I use woodpecker, what do I integrate with that? But James just pulled everything together for you. So, I mean, I know I'm going to take it and use it. I don't know what you're going to do or not. I know I'm going to use it, because I'm getting ready to start building out campaigns. So, I mean, if you're struggling to get clients, and actually, speaking of getting clients, I know Ryan mentioned earlier that he wanted to start. What's going on, Nikos? How you doing? I saw Dean was on here earlier. Actually, he has a calling center, so he's developing VAs and stuff like that. But it says, Brian says, he says he's interested in starting a social media marketing agency here in Switzerland with someone who has experience, but I'm so insecure when it comes to talking to people, but I know I'll have to dive deep into it sooner or later. Any tips to overcome this, maybe from your experience?
Well, number one, I would say talking to people, then start talking to people. You know, like, the thing about business is at the end of the day, it's a people game. And so you want to be as good as you can and as clear as you can in terms of communication. Doesn't mean you need to be like someone else. Okay. Like I've actually had people speak at my events, and they're like, you've got to be like Gary Vaynerchuk. You've got to be as energetic as possible. And that's, if that's your personality, awesome. I would say you need to be enthusiastic. But look at Ty Lopez. Ty Lopez is a dude who'll get on a show like this. The whole time he'll just be like, no, I mean, he's kind of like a nerd. He's like a rich nerd, dude. He reminds me of when I grew up in Seattle, so like we were big Bill Gates fans when he was younger, and we're still a fan, but he reminds me of Bill Gates. Like Bill Gates just get up there, no, the thing that you know what I mean, like, and so Ty is just himself, right? He's smart. He's beyond smart. The dude is smart. Now you get around him like in a group. And he's really charismatic, but he's not like the loudmouth. He's just like this confident, like smart dude. So like when he starts talking, people start listening. So I would just say like you got to find your own personality, but you got to become a people person. Like you got to become somebody that people relate to in some way. And so I'm telling you, there's no magic on that. Like. There's people who will sell you courses and crap all day long saying, you don't need to talk to somebody. You don't need this. You don't need that, whatever. And like, there may be some little angles and stuff where you can do that. But I'm telling you, like, if you're going to be in social media agency, people are going to want to talk to you. You know what I mean? And so I would just say, man, just go out there and start talking to people. And the biggest thing is just start learning yourself. Start learning, what you're good at, what you're bad at. Like if you go and have a conversation with somebody and it goes really bad, don't think real negative about that. Or if you go in there and don't put on a great impression, go back and think, what should I have said? What should I have done? Right? And then just learn from that. You know what I mean? Don't beat yourself up over it. Look, I mean, obviously, like I consider myself a good communicator, but I have conversations I mess up all the time. And growing up, I was not very confident in how I talked or how I communicated, but I just learned. I think about. I remember being in grade school, and thinking like walking away from a conversation and going, "Well, I shouldn't have said that." Well, everything was cool until I mentioned that. So you know what I mean? Like you just need to learn and have good self-awareness and learn off of what you're saying. But starting in Switzerland, I mean, we have a lot of coaching students in Europe, and I can tell you it's a good market to be in. It's a very good market to be in. The technology is good out there. The market is good out there, and there's a lot of money to be made out there in digital marketing for sure.
That's good. Thanks for answering. But I know as far as myself, actually I'm an introvert. So I think you mentioned that I guess at JR's conference, I think you kind of mentioned that Russell Brunson was like that, and that's kind of how you kind of got close to him. I guess somebody that you really want, to work with or something. You really need to kind of put yourself in there. So that's a kind of interesting story. I don't know if we want to go into that now, how you came into contact with Russell Brunson, but I know as far as myself, I'm actually an introvert. And the way that I actually kind of came out, because you can ask, even last year, you can ask my wife, you can ask my friends, everything. I told my wife, I was like, I don't want people, I don't like people, I don't want to be around people, period. But here I am right now. If you go look at my page, just started maybe around November, I started doing these interviews. And I'm actually, engaging with people. And the thing that got me was just by doing it. You just got to get out there and do it. Obviously, once you, this may sound, what's Dean say? Dean says, I still do this stuff, but learn every day. That's what it is. Hashtag is ABM, Dean. Come on, unless you got another acronym, Dean, but usually mine is hashtag ABM. Always be moving. I don't know, or maybe you always be live, but always be living. I don't know what it is, man. But
always be learning.
Yeah, learning. Yeah. So see, there it is right there. I messed up right there, but who cares, man? So get a laugh out of people. So, but the thing is, it's just, you just got to put yourself out there. Don't worry about, mistakes. Don't worry about failures and all that stuff. Like some people say, you just fail your way forward. The only way you're going to do it, you got to put motion. And kind of did, I guess, a video on this on, online as far as, people not wanting to go live, get on lives and all that stuff. But then you just kind of open up a group for that. If, you're scared of, doing public speaking, anything like that, he has a group that he's going to open up that, pretty much engages people, helps them do, get used to lives. But I mean, the thing is, you don't really want to just jump into it immediately. So you kind of want to take small steps. I mean, you might want to go out and, if you don't talk to your neighbor, just go talk to your neighbor one day. If you haven't never talked to him, say hello, and then, next time say hello, how you doing? Engage with them in conversation. And then you just get comfortable. So, I mean, you don't necessarily have to jump into it every time, I mean, some people, yeah, they like to go, jump in, a cold water, jump off a cliff or something like that. But I mean, those are adrenaline seekers. So not everybody's like that. I mean, pretty much the majority of people needs to take steps. And once, you start making yourself, putting yourself in motion, everything else is going to come. I don't know if you want to add anything to or not, James.
I would say too, I love that, man. And I would say also, number one, congrats for you and what you're doing as, because you don't have to be an extrovert, bro. You can just be 100% you, and you know what I mean? And people will like it because it's you. And I can't be you. You'll attract people, bro, that I can't attract, and that's why you're you, man. So I love that, man. That's awesome. The other thing I would say to people who are a little bit shy or whatever, just remember this, okay? This is the best time than ever before in the history of like the world to be trying to learn how to put yourself out there, because people only remember the last thing you say. So you may go up and totally mess something up. You may say something dumb. You may say something unintelligent. It don't matter. All you got to do is say something else. Trust me, because they're only going to remember the last thing. And so that's kind of like a metaphor. It's not like literal. It's not like people literally forget, but literally like people are more forgiving. This is statistically, they're more forgiving. It shows in like sports, politics, all those things. Like somebody can be what somebody would say is a total idiot. 2 days later, everyone thinks they're a saint because of something they said or did or whatever. Like everyone forgets about the past. Like that's just how society is right now. And so don't worry about, if you do something wrong, if you said something wrong, if whatever. Trust me, if anything, like Mike said, have fun with it. You know what I mean? Because like the only real thing you're showing is that you're normal. Nobody's perfect, right? So like when you say something funny or wrong or whatever you want to say, like just roll with it, because everybody, 100% of people will relate to it. Everybody will be like, well, I've said something wrong before, or I've whatever. And if you got a good attitude about it, people will think it's cool, So yeah, that's what I would add, man.
That's good. That's good advice. And I don't want to keep you on here all day, but as far as I guess just we know your background and everything like that. I kind of want to know as far as growing up. I know a lot of people say, entrepreneurs cannot be made, but they're only born. So I mean, you listen to Gary Vee and his story and how he was pretty much selling stuff as a little kid, selling lemonade and lemonade stands and all that stuff. So I mean, what is your take on that? As far as an entrepreneur?
I don't even think Gary Vaynerchuk says that.
Yeah, I mean, I just threw him out there. I don't know if he says it or not, but I know some people say that.
No, that's not true at all. I mean, I have people. I have so many people in my coaching program where they've never thought about being an entrepreneur, and then they saw some video or whatever, and 2 or 3 years later, they're making the same amount of money working from home. And so that's not true at all. What is and why somebody might say that is there's a level of like understanding your raw talent that, how do I say it? Like if you're born as talented as LeBron James is at basketball, like you can't teach that. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't teach somebody to be LeBron James. You got to be born with that. Now, but I will say this, there's probably 100 people who are born to be LeBron, but only one put in the work, time, kept his or her nose clean. Like, you know what I mean? Some of them just quit on themselves. Some of them had people who didn't believe in them. Some of them maybe ended up in jail. Some of them, whatever, some of them got injured. You know what I mean? Um, but what I will say is, like, you may not be like one of the greatest at all time at being a digital marketer, but you can become great at what you do. You can become great at being a digital marketer or being an entrepreneur. And so, but the thing is, you can't take you can't take your skills and your talents and always look at someone else and say, well, I'm never going to be like that. Like, you got to figure out how to do it like you. And that's the true, like, entrepreneur, like, where you become so comfortable doing it your way that's when you really get dangerous. I'm telling you, man, that's when you really, really, really get dangerous, because people like the original you. They're gonna like the original you more than anybody, and it takes some time to kind of learn. It's almost like split testing. You kind of like split test your personality sometimes. That's what you're doing when you grow up as a kid a lot of times. You ever see or been that person where, like, your junior year, you're dressing totally different than your sophomore year, and your sophomore year, you're dressing totally different than your freshman year. Like, you're split tested, man. Like, like, I've seen people who one year were preppy, the next year they come out, dressed up like Eminem, and then the next year they're dressed up like a jock. It's like they're just testing it, and seeing it. And so you got to do that, man, in your entrepreneurial journey. And it's a journey, and you got to get with people who believe in you and who speak life into you on your journey. And that's one of the biggest things, I think, is, getting the negativity out. That's one of the first things that we teach in our programs is, the attitude, the mindset, those things can all be taught. And for most people, you have to understand, most people don't have the mindset to be a successful entrepreneur, but that can be taught, and so I'll just drop a couple key things here for you guys real quick. One, there's 3 personality types that we are very cautious about. Okay. And I got a form of this from another big entrepreneur, but I basically narrowed it down to this. The victim. Okay. And I can tell by talking to someone for 20, 30 minutes, the victim, that's somebody that's very tough to help. So we have people who have money, who want to get in the program. They're enthusiastic. They're talented. Man, they can talk to people, or they're good at the computer, or they understand ads, but man, they have a victim mentality. That is somebody that you want to be very careful with. Now, what we do is, if we bring on somebody like that, we have a program or kind of lessons that can work somebody out of that mentality. For instance, a victim mentality, you can tell just by the way that they talk, but the way that they talk on the strategy call. You can tell by, who they're blaming, stuff like that. But the victim will, number one, they'll initially be looking for a hero. They'll be looking for somebody to save the day. They'll be looking for somebody to help them. But eventually that hero will become oppressive. And that's where coaches, and see, even as an agency owner, this is true. You will have clients have a victim mentality. You can tell by the way that they talk. You can tell by how they start treating you, right? Well, so-and-so did this, blah, blah, blah. I canceled on this. But like, all those are key indicators that they're about to do that to you. And so you need to frame them very quickly when they come in with you to not do these things. And that's what we do. Like, we will bring somebody on who we think we can help, who is a victim, but we immediately, before we teach them anything, before we show them anything, they immediately get, I would say, like, indoctrinated with how to get out of that mindset and how do you know if this is you. You know what I'm saying? So like, so that's one person. Another person is the complainer, and that's a real tough person to deal with because they suck the life out of you, and I won't go into that for a long time. And then the third person that you really want to watch out for, even if you're an agency or whatever, is the person who is delusional. Okay. The person who, they're always posturing. They're always being more political than politically correct. So you're like, how many leads do you need? Oh man, we don't need very many leads. We're doing good. Okay. Then why'd you just sign up with me? Oh man, if you don't get us 30 leads, I don't know if we can do this. Okay, I can get you 30 leads. Is that how many you need? I mean, I don't need them, but it's like, dude, it's like that is the definition of delusional. It's like that person is very difficult to deal with because there's no way to set a baseline. I have one guy in one of my coaching programs who he struggles with this, where like he'll get on a call and I'll be like, okay, man, how many clients you got right now? Oh man, I got 7 clients. We're doing this and that. Okay, cool. The next call, hey man, how many clients you got? I don't tell anybody that. I only that's between me and my wife. Like, bro, I got a recording of you 2 weeks ago telling like 10 people. What are you talking about? Like that's a little delusional, right? Like that's like, dude, seriously? So and then you try to figure out, okay, like, well, how are things going? Oh man, we're doing great, blah blah blah. Okay, how many leads you have? We don't have any, man. We're struggling, man. We need you to help us with leads. I'm like, dude, like, which way's left, which way's right? Like, so you have to identify those people when they come in and say, hey, do I want to deal with this or not? You know what I'm saying? Like, because most of those people we won't bring into our program. But if we do, it's because we think we can coach that person. And so I would be very cautious and careful with what you're doing. And if you bring somebody like that on, don't do, or if you're in a tough spot and you have to do it for the money, have an understanding of what you're going to have to do to pre-frame that person in the beginning, because how that relationship starts it's only going to go downhill from there if it's bad. Okay. So make sure you gotta catch those things on the very front.
Yeah, that's I kind of wrote down a couple of things here, as far as, just being agency owners, beginning agency owners in the start. But actually I really didn't. I mean, a lot of my interviews, man, I try not to go into one of my guests, I think it was Abby, she was like, she transitioned out of mindset. But I mean, mindset is a big part of, entrepreneurship. That's kind of why I touched on it. I was like, I don't know if I want to touch on that today because they can always go back, and look at other interviews. But James brought it up. So, I mean, there you go again. You got another entrepreneur talking about mindset, how important your mindset is. And then I also just thought about just the different screening that you had, as far as clients that you want to work with, because speaking, from new agency owners, we're just like, well, we'll take anybody in, we'll take everybody in. And actually, if you go back and listen to some of my interviews in the past, you can see that if you do that, see, I mean, we're trying to actually, you learn from people's mistakes. You learn from other agency owners' mistakes, successful entrepreneurs, you learn from their mistakes. Ty Lopez is big on this. You learn from, business people's mistakes, people before you learn from their mistakes. That way you do not have to go back and do the same things that they did. You don't have to worry about picking up blocks. But I mean, you listen to some of the other agency owners when they were first beginning their agency, they always talk about, well, some of them, not always, but some of them talk about how they had clients that I think Mackenzie Lieberman said it. She said she had a client that, was just a horrible client and she couldn't wait. And then he didn't sign up with her. And she was like, wow, I'm relieved. And then actually ended up picking more clients because he was always calling her all the time. And I mean, that just deals with personality. I think it might have been, I don't know if JR or Rebus might have mentioned it before, but it's like, man, you really don't have, business problems. It's like you have people problems that roll over into business problems. So, I mean, once you get your mindset right and once you get your personality right, then the thing is, that's when your business will get right. So, I mean, there's no such thing as business problems, just people problems, your personality, your issues that roll over into your business. So, I mean, it's interesting that you said that. I mean, you talked about the screening process. So you just heard James say he's actually turning people away. I mean, as far as, I mean, obviously, yeah, you don't need the money. And just like you just mentioned, like if you do need the money, if you do need to take the client, understand what you're going to have to go through. I mean, is it even worth it? Do you even need that amount of money? Or is it just going to be a headache, which you might end up losing clients? Because some people talked about that. They picked up one client to get more money, and then they ended up losing their other clients just for that one client. Now they're stuck with low money, minimum amount of money, and they're stuck with a client that they don't want. So that's two double whammies. So instead of having, one whammy, you just picked up two. So really think about and analyze, the situations that you're going into before you get into them. So I mean, that's a good thought, James. But I know, go ahead. You got something to say, or you want?
No, that's good. I'm gonna have to roll here. Let's do one more though. This has been really, really, really cool.
That's good. But let me ask you, as we can go ahead and close it down. I always end with this question here, kind of signature question. Some people say, it's some people say it's a laid back question. Some people say it's deep and complicated. But so let me ask you this. So if you were to have one superpower, what would that superpower be and why?
Man, if I had one superpower, I think it would have to be it's tough because do I want to say something that's like more mindset, sentimental, psychological, or do I want to say something that's more tactical? In my mind, I think the psychology stuff is like the foundation of the tactical stuff. So if I were to say something like that, I would say it would have to have something to do with I would want to be really, really good at understanding people and knowing how to solve their problems. Like I know that sounds a little bit soft, or like somebody wants to, hey, give me a hug now. I just said that. But to be honest, man, if you can solve people's problem, man, you can, that's what people are looking for every day, And so, yeah, I think, and then on a more tactical side, though, if you were to ask me, I would say I would want to be a superhero at making a lot of money, but doing it in a different way. And so one of the reasons why I talk about money a lot is, when I was young, we used to build homes in Mexico in these little teeny villages. They have no running water, no electricity, and we used to build homes out there with a real foundation, walls, all that stuff. And it cost $6,000 to build a home. Okay, so we would save, me and 4 or 5 friends, we would save money, raise money, be asking everybody all year for a whole year to build one home. And I used to go down there with my church, and so we might build 3 to 4 homes a year. Well, when I made that first 6 figures, I bought a little village of homes. I bought 6 of them, in one check. You know what I'm saying? And so what I realized at 20 was money ain't everything, but man, money can do things for people. Money can open doors. Money can it's a tool, right? It's like having a really good universal tool in a toolbox, and you got this one tool that it can almost do anything, and I think the downside to money is people begin to think money is God. You know what I mean? People do anything, man, to serve money, and that's I want money to serve me and my purpose. That's why I think money was created. I don't want to serve money. I want money to serve me, what I'm supposed to do in the world. So that's what I would say, man.
That's good. That's good. Yeah, we appreciate James. We appreciate you joining. I know you got to run. I got to run too. So yeah, but I mean, if you want to reach out to James, you heard about his coaching program. I'm sure he has some lower tiers products as well, because I know he's a follower of Russell Brunson. So I understand that he understands the hierarchy and the level, the progression. So just reach out to him. You got any more questions to him? I hate to blow up your inbox, but just reach out to him, send him a message, let him know. I mean, like I said, he's real down to earth. He's personable. But yeah, you can either drop the link in here, just send it to me, and I'll get it out to wherever it needs to go. But we do appreciate it, James, and hopefully you'll be back on here one day. Once again we can kick it again. But I appreciate you, and hope you have a good day. And you can say anything you want to the audience.
I appreciate you guys. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for having me on, Mike. You're awesome, man. Keep working hard, and I appreciate all you guys. If you guys have any questions, you can hit me up. Go to my website or whatever, and there's a ton of cool free stuff we got out there for you guys. A USB drive, all kinds of stuff. So just go out there. If you thought this was crazy, I dare you to get that USB drive or any of the other free stuff we have. It's really good. So go get it.
All right, appreciate it, James, and y'all have a good one. Thanks for joining us. Hashtag live share this on your pages. Let everybody know we went live, and let everybody know, especially agency owners, especially that one tip that he gave out, as far as plenty of tips, but the one for agency owners and getting clients. So if you're struggling getting clients, share this video. Know anybody struggling, share it. So thank you guys, and y'all have a good one. Until the next time, ABM, always be moving. Hashtag ABM. Have a good one.